Welcome, everyone, to the Throw Zone. I'm your host, Big Kev, and today we have another Discus episode with our guest, Joe Brown.
Hello.
Yeah, so thank you for coming on the show, Joe. If you'd like to share a couple of accolades about yourself just to help the audience get to know who you are, and we'll go from there.
Of course. Thank you for having me. My name is Joe Brown. I competed in the 2024 Olympics in Paris. I got third place at the trials. My last throw, I got fourth at the USA Championships in 2023 and went to the Pan Am Games after that and got fifth place there. 2019, I was the D2 national champion in the discus. Before that, I didn't really do much of anything. I won a conference title one time. No, twice. I won shot put and weight throw indoor.
Oh, that's
Uh,
awesome.
yeah,
Yeah, so I guess as we get started here, I just want to give a quick moment to give a thank you to our sponsor, Lincoln Mics. Lincoln Mics has provided the microphone for me and I guess our, world headquarters here in Lincoln, Nebraska. Go give them a follow online or check out their website. They can do everything with microphone repair as well as custom mics. And remember, if you pay with Bitcoin, they will give 50% off. But now we'll get the ball rolling. So, Joe, where did it all start? Like, when did you decide that you wanted to throw?
so it all started, and I've talked about this a couple times, and it's funny to me every time I bring it up because it's just so random. But like, I started because like my brother played basketball, and so he was always working out and doing all sorts of cool stuff. And he was always in the world of athletics. And my dad was pretty big into that stuff too. So like he would help like train my brother and all that stuff. And so I would like tag along with them when I was like fifth, sixth grade and go work out with them in the gym. And so when you got to seventh grade in Texas, I don't know about other places, but like, when you got to seventh grade, you could be in the athletics class. But to be in the athletics class, you had to be in a sport. So you had to play a sport. And so the only other option was like it was either athletics or PE. And I didn't want to be in PE because that didn't seem like any fun. I wanted to be athletic. Um, but I didn't know how to play football. I didn't know like anything about it. I didn't know any positions. And I knew I didn't want to play basketball because that's where my brother played and he was so good at it. And I always compared myself to him and I was like way worse than him. So I was like, it's not even gonna be worth my time. I didn't really know much about track, but I was like, it seems like they have a little bit of everything in track, so I could probably find something I can do. So I went for the track team, and on the first day, in my head, it was the first day. I don't know if it was actually the first day, but in my head canon, it's on the first day they had us doing like lunges on the straights and sprinting the curves or something like that. It was some crazy workout like that, and I was like, yeah, this is not for me. I can't
Yeah,
do
I
any of
feel like
this.
a lot of throwers have a similar like origin story. Like they try track, and uh, at least in my perspective, we had to run a 100 and a 400 to test out what you could do without like jumping or throwing. And the 100 was fine. And then I remember running the 400, and I thought that was going to be the end of me. And that's when I was like, okay, well, looks like we're not doing that. We're sticking to throws. So nice to see that more people have that similar experience.
Yeah. Yeah, I think pretty sure we did like a 40 or something at some point, and I ran so slow. And I didn't even know it was that slow, but I think I ran like a seven something. And I wasn't even like a big guy. I just was slow, I guess. And so like so I didn't realize it was slow, but when I talked to some other people afterwards, they're like, seven? Like your number started with a seven? I was like, yeah, that's not good.
Yeah, and then if you're not like exposed to all that stuff, it's kind of like not a common knowledge of seven slow. You're just like, yeah, whatever. But
Yeah,
kind of looking back now, like, oh, like there's
pretty
the room for
terrible.
growth there.
So then somehow I made my way over to the throws. I don't even know like if I had any stops in between, but I know I made my way over there somehow, and I was equally as not good at the throws as I was the sprints. So I think one throw I remember I had, I threw it over the net, like going backwards into the tennis courts that were behind our ring. So I was like, I wasn't even going the right direction. Um,
And then what grade
and
was that in?
that was seventh grade.
I had the exact experience. We threw a little, 1K rubber discus, and on like the wind back, you have to kind of act like you're pulling a lawnmower, with the little
Mhm.
pivot back, pivot back, pivot back. You know,
Yeah.
that increases the throw distance from what I heard at the time. But after that, I let go before I even had it like pulled back, and it went over the little cage. It was like a baseball backstop, is what we had, and it's about hit the coach, almost hit someone, and then that's when I was shunned to go hang out with the shot putters. That's where I decided to live for the next like 10 years or so.
Yeah.
And so at that time, did you try shot put or just discus?
Yeah, no, we did both shot and disc, and I was equally as not good at both of them. And so like for seventh and eighth grade, they had like I think it was three people made the team like to go compete, and then there was one alternate, and then that was it. Like that was the travel squad. I didn't make the team ever, except for like a couple times I made it as an alternate, and so I never got to compete seventh grade. And I don't think I ever got to compete eighth grade either. Um, and then I didn't get to compete ninth grade. But ninth grade was a little different story. I think I got hurt like right before track season or like right at the beginning. So I think I hurt my hamstring or my hamstring or my quad or something during like football workouts. So I started playing football in ninth grade, and that was when I started getting a little bit more athletic, a little faster, and I liked football a lot more because it was a lot more like aggressive, and I could get more physical with people, and I just liked that part of it. I got like way better at football than I did at throwing, like faster because like first I think within the first couple of weeks I was like it was such a like huge learning curve, but like there was so much for me to learn, but it was like easy stuff for me to learn with football. With throwing, it was like so unnatural. I was just like I was lost forever. Um,
And
but
then
yeah, I
what
started.
position did they have you playing for football that time?
Oh, I think the first day. So I still had no idea about any position. I didn't know anything about football. I just was like, I went out there and I was like, oh, I'll try running back and I'll try safety. So I think I tried for like free rover. I don't even know what kind of, I don't know. It was one of the safety positions. And so I was like, I was a DB and a running back. And I was just like, I don't know. These guys are pretty fast. And we did 40s again. I ran like a 5.4, and everybody and all the DBs were like, it started with a five? You're in the fives? And I was like, okay, that's still not good. What do I need to be running to be in this position? And so that was when I found out, okay, maybe I should be something else. And then like I think it was within the first week I got switched over to D line and O line. And so I was at like all the normal linemen, they were all like gone for some reason on one day, and we were doing like a drill, and so I was beating everybody in the drill because none of like the starting guys were there. And so the coach was like, "Oh, you might have some potential here." And then the starting guys came back, and it was like I was like almost with them. So it was like, and this was my first time ever doing anything like that. And so they were like, "Okay, you're gonna stick at lineman." And so I was a guard for a while, and then for most of my time I was a offensive tackle, and then a D end.
Yeah, no, I had a really similar experience where I never was super interested in football growing up. I always was a baseball, basketball kid, and my sophomore year is when the football team had me go out for football. And I remember I was just a bigger kid. I was only like 240 at the time, but for a sophomore, it's pretty decent sized. and we got to like go up on the scout team for varsity one day, and I was like a three technique, so like between the nose and like the D end, and they always talked about read your guards, blah blah blah, but I just kind of pushed forward, hope for the best, and there was one day I went forward and no one blocked me. And I was pumped. I'm like, okay, I'm going to hit the quarterback. There was a pulling guard that was coming off of a Nebraska Class A state championship football team that was running full speed at me. And I look, and it was like a deer in the headlights, but he liked me, so he just like picked me up, knocked me off the ground, held me, and then put me back down on my feet at the end and made sure I didn't get hurt. So yeah, I think that's a pretty common situation for a lot of throwers. They're
Yeah.
like, "Oh, you're athletic, play football." So during that time, at what point did you start taking throwing a little more seriously, or notice that you're starting to excel and wanted to compete at the next level?
So I think at that point, my freshman year, I feel like I was still like 150 pounds, like a little tiny guy. And then I probably gained like maybe 5 to 10 pounds every year. And so I was a little tiny guy on the O line. And then in the throws, like, so since I missed my freshman year, they had us like separated into people who would travel, and then people who were just like the developmental group who just didn't really get much attention. And so I was in that developmental group of throws, and we didn't really get much time with the coaches. And so I think my sophomore year, I was on JV, and I think that was the only time I was doing like decent. And I wasn't even throwing that far. I was throwing like one in the ones. I think the farthest I threw was like 130 something. But I think at the district meet my sophomore year, I was on JV for that meet, and I didn't make the varsity team. The three people, and the three were on the varsity team threw less than I threw. I threw like 131 or something, and everybody else threw like under 130. And I was like, okay, so I'm not that bad. Like I could have been on varsity and I could at least got like fifth place.
Yeah.
Um, and so that was like pretty close. Like I probably would have been like a wild card or something. I don't know. I might have made it to onto the next round. So I think that was the year I was like, okay, I'm not like horrible. Like I got some potential. And then the next year I did way worse. I didn't even get close to 130. Threw in the 120s all year, maybe like 110,
And that was junior
119.
year, right?
Yeah, that was my junior year. I think I was on varsity that year, maybe. And then my senior year, I feel like I was in the 130s or 120s and 130s for most of the year. And I still I didn't take it serious until like maybe the middle of my last year, my senior season. Because I was trying to go to college for football, and so I took football like super serious. I went to all the summer workouts. I was doing everything I could. I was doing like extra stuff, and I was like on a recruiting portal and all that stuff. And I didn't get any. I got a couple of like offers for a couple of like NAIA schools and D3 schools, but they were like super expensive. And so I was fine if I would went to like a one of those schools. It was just like I couldn't afford it. It was like they were offering like it was like a half ride based off of like academics and whatever they could get together, but it was still like $40,000, like either a year to go there. And I was just like, I can't do that. That's crazy. I'm not gonna I don't think I want to put myself in debt like that. So like I was like, well, those aren't really options. And so this was like about like midway through track season, and then my coach was like, well, why don't you try like do well this season in track and try and go to school for track. That's what I did. I went to college for track, but I didn't even know you could do that. And so then I started taking it like pretty serious, trying to get like as good as I could in the last couple of meets that I had. And then I was like reaching out to college coaches and a bunch of D2 schools in the area and like in Texas. And by the end of my senior year, so I made it out of district barely. I made it out of the whatever the next one was, area, and still like I didn't really throw that far. And then my last meet, it was regionals, the one right before state, and like I was like, okay, I can, I'm almost at state, and like all I need to do is like get top two here. And little did I know, it was like top two was gonna be like 180, like 30 feet, 40 feet farther than I was ever gonna throw. And so, yeah, discus, I didn't even make the finals. I threw a PR. I didn't make the finals, that was crazy to me. And that was the first time I ever seen people throwing over like 160, 170. Then there were multiple people doing it, and I was just like, this is just insane. And then shot put, I made the finals, and I threw a PR in shot too. I threw like 52 something, and but I got like eighth place, I think. And so that was the end of my career, and that was the most serious I ever took it at that point, and it paid off because I PR'd, but it didn't pay off because I didn't make the state. And then I was emailing coaches, and I told them, I was like, oh, I've improved so much in the last like these last three meets. Like I think I PR'd like every meet after that, or after I started taking it serious. And it was like pretty big jumps. It went from like 131 to like 140 something to like 158. Um, and yeah, so then I think I got a couple responses, or maybe it was just the one, and it was the school I ended up going to, and he brought me out for a visit, and he didn't even want to give me any money. And like when I got done with the visit, like I was like, so is there any way I can get like on a scholarship or anything? And so I had met the head coach too, and the head coach at the time, I don't know, I guess he saw something in me, so like the the throws coach talked to the head coach, and the head coach was like, all right, yeah, give him a little bit. And so they gave me like a little tiny scholarship, a little $2,000 for the whole year. I think either for the whole, I think it was for the whole year. And then, but I also had like other stuff. I had like the Pell Grant. I think that was all I had at the time, but that covered a lot of it. So it wasn't like I was going to be $40,000 in debt, and I was okay with that.
And then was that still pretty close to home for you, or is that pretty far away in Texas?
No, it's pretty close. It was like an hour, hour and a half.
Oh, that's pretty similar to me. I grew up in Omaha, and I actually never really even considered going to Nebraska. It just was never interesting until like college came around and I started getting recruited, and I ended up going there. So it's only about an hour away. So same difference. It's
Yeah,
close enough. You can still go home, get a couple free meals here and there.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so then at that point, at the end of your senior year of high school, what was your PR in the discus?
So yeah, I finished out at 150, 158. Yeah, I think 158. 158 and 10 inches. It's either 158 or 152. It's one of those, but I think it's 158. And then it was 52 in shot put.
Okay. And then did you do a lot of weight training at that time as well?
Yeah, so like towards the end of high school, so like probably started lifting a lot more like my junior year, but my by my senior year, my last year, I was lifting a lot, and we I was going to like a special gym, and it was like a dungeon really. Like we went into this dungeon, and the guy like would tell us what to do, and he loved having us do tire flips and just like torturing us. And so we did a lot of cool stuff at that gym. And I lifted a lot there, and I got a lot of like knowledge and experience just lifting there.
Then did you do primarily like more of a gym bro split, or were you doing Olympic lifting as well?
No, like it was like nothing that you could like. It wasn't like anything normal.
More like functional strength then with the tire flips and
It was just like I don't know if he ever had like a plan. Like there wasn't any like periodization or anything. It was off the dome for him every time. Like he came in, it was like, oh, you're gonna do some tire flip today, or oh, you're gonna test today. And he had like the craziest test for us. Like we always started off with uh like agility ladder, and it wasn't like to get agility. The whole point of it was like to push our nervous system, and that was like a big thing with him was like training your nervous system because like he was always saying like your body can do a lot more than your nervous system will let it. And so you have to train that more than you train the muscles, basically. And so like we'd started off like full speed agility ladders, and just like burning our calves and feet, going as hard as we possibly could for the entire little circuit that we did. And then like one of the tests that he had us do was like a 10-minute tire flip. And so you had to like flip the tire as fast and hard as you could and see how many flips you could get in 10 minutes. And it's like, it doesn't sound that bad, but like
10
once you
minutes is a
get,
long
yeah,
time.
10 minutes is like, you're like shot after like 5 minutes. And then, especially like you're going full speed and it's full out, like 100% intensity. Like that's a hard thing to do. That's a hard thing to sustain for 10 minutes. And so
Even
like
like
that,
3 minutes, I think would be a long time for flipping tires, and then, like
yeah,
depending on the weight.
yeah. And then so that was like it was fun though. Like it's fun to like because he had a board up on the on the wall with all the records of who got the most tire flips and so it was always fun trying to beat the record because it was like it was guys from all of the schools in the district pretty much, and it was like the top guys, like the top football guys. So like if you could get your name up on the board, like you knew you were one of the top guys in the whole
And
district.
the area.
Yeah. So that was like really fun.
So was that more like conditioning and less bench squat cleans and stuff like that?
No. So yeah, we did like it was a lot of like it was kind of like a lot of like football kind of stuff, like getting ready for football. There was like repeated bouts of like high intensity things. But we did a lot of bench and we did a lot of like technique work with cleans. So we did like we had to learn how to like drop under the bar properly. We learned like how to freaking like squat from the bottom of like the hole. And so we did like bottom up front squats, and we would squat from a pin that was set like at the like you were in the hole. And you had to squat from there and then go
Yeah.
up and then down. It was just like a lot of like different things. We had like one workout that was like front squat, back squat. So for every one front squat, you had to do three back squats, and it was you had the same weight. So you go in, do run one front squat, rack it, get right under it, do three back squats, rack it, go back in, do two front squats, rack it, and then six back squats, rack it. And you couldn't like really take a break, but like once you started getting to like five front squats, then you could take like a couple minutes. But that was just like brutal. It was just like
What was the end?
you went. It was, I'm sort of telling you, like it wasn't like anything. There was no plan. There wasn't a program. He was just like he would tell you when you could stop. And so like if you looked like you could keep going, you would keep going. I think I got to like 10 one time, and I was just like, this is absolutely nuts. I
That
had to,
almost
I
kind of sounds like, I don't know if it was drawn up this way, but almost sounds like the conjugate method that Westside Barbell teaches in terms of like your max effort days, even though it might not look like it has very much periodization, but with their training regiment, you would go till failure in one day, and that I guess that would kind of make sense. But no, that's really interesting.
yeah, yeah. So like it was like every time I went there, it was a hard, like super hard, one of the hardest things I'd ever done in my life. Like every workout was just super like insanely hard. So I think that was the best part about it was like I learned how to like work out really hard. And like if you didn't work hard, he was just like, go ahead and go home. Like you're done because we're not gonna deal with that crap here. And
Yeah,
so yeah, I think that was the best part about it was just like learning how to push myself and work past where I thought I should stop and like push myself farther than that point.
No, I think that also is like having that experience where you're younger kind of translates to later in life where, if you're able to make it through 10 minutes of tire flips, like how bad's a set of 10 back squat?
Yeah, exactly.
But I guess moving into college here, I guess your freshman year, did that go smoothly transitioning to the heavier implements in the college, I guess, environment?
I think so. I mean, I almost threw as far, or yeah, I think I PR'd actually. I don't know. I can't remember. But I think I threw either like right around my high school PRs with the heavier implements, or it was somewhere around
Yeah.
my PRs. But yeah, it wasn't like, I don't think it was that difficult for me to transition because like my trajectory was like this. Because like the last three meets, I was just continuing to get better and better. And so I kind of just like kept riding that trajectory, but like I didn't do any throwing over the summer, but like I got way stronger because I was going to that gym like every day. I didn't have to go to school. I didn't have to do anything and like recover or like that, anything that would impede my recovery. I don't think I might have been like working with my dad maybe, but yeah, it was, so I was like working out like really hard, and I gained a lot of weight. I think I was 185 coming out of my senior year, and then going into my freshman year, I was 205. So like, I think I gained like 20 pounds, and I got faster while I gained the 20 pounds. And so like, I was still training for football too. So it was, the whole plan was like, get to the campus and like show the football coaches like, hey, I'm a good football player too. Like, you guys might want to get me on your team. And no football coach like ever paid any attention to me. So that whole plan went out the window. But I think I was like, I came in, I think I was in the best shape I'd ever been in, or at least I thought I was. When I think the first like week of workouts here, I was just so confused because I thought I was in such good shape. And then we were doing stuff and I was just like dying. And I was like, what is happening? Why am I dying during this? Like, I should not be that dead. And it was just the worst workouts I'd ever had. And I was so confused. Yeah. I don't think the transition really affected me that much because I got way stronger, and then like my trajectory of progress had been like pretty drastic. So I feel like I was still on that trajectory. My brain was just open to learn anything I could.
And do you have an idea of what your maxes were in the weight room around your freshman year? Just covered it on the last episode here that it looks like social media has a lot of like givens that seem to be published a lot of you need to lift this much to throw this far. And that is something I kind of want to debunk because I've a friend of mine in high school, he threw 197. His max bench was 185 and his back squat was probably under 300 pounds. So I guess it's kind of fun to see the range of, max outs that we get here.
Um, yeah, I don't even remember. I know I was like there was me and then like my best friend now. Like, we were the two strongest when we came in, but I wasn't like crazy strong. I know I was benching over three plates, and then we were working out with like four plates for squat. So I don't know what my max was correlated to. I think maybe my squat max was like around 450 or something like that, and then my bench was probably like 365 maybe. Um, Cleans maybe like at that time maybe like 315. I know we did. I remember we tested. This was like the only time we ever did snatches was my freshman year, and we tested snatches. And I did like, we were doing power snatches or hang snatches and hang power, and I think I did like 225 for five, and which is like that's more than I probably could do right now. I don't know how I did that. It was not good technique at all. But yeah, I always think back about that, and I'm like, how did I ever how did I do that? Like when I'm doing snatches now, I'm just like, I don't know how I got that weight over my head.
Yeah. So then, did you end up redshirting it all in your college career, or did you just make it through in four?
I redshirted my last outdoor season. So going into my senior year, my fourth year, I took that outdoor season off. I didn't. I think the main reason, like I knew I could get better and like possibly like go for the national championship. But I think the main reason, like I wanted to finish my MBA. And so I was done with my undergrad in 3.5 years. So I was like right in the middle of my last year, my senior year, and that was when I was like, okay, I think we need to like I'm about to start my MBA. I think I can finish it within one more year. So if we just redshirt my outdoor season, we get the best of both worlds. Like I could finish my degree, and I could possibly go for the national.
Yeah, so it's really interesting that you used throwing when you first got into it almost as a tool to, cheaper education. I think that's really awesome to hear, especially to see at the level you've got to now in throwing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then going into that last year, I guess, what was your like biggest takeaways for what led to your most improvement that year?
I don't know. I think it was like I think I gained like 2 meters every year. So I don't think I ever had like a drastic like increase in distance, but that last year it looked like really dramatic because I had taken that outdoor season off. And so like we didn't have the 2 meter jump. It was like a 4 meter jump, I think. Or maybe it was like oh no, it was that was like a 7 or 8 or 6 meter jump. Yeah, my PR was 53 and then it went to 59 on my last throw. But for the majority of the season, it wasn't like that crazy. It was like I had thrown 57 during my redshirt year, and so like I went from 53 to 50. But I only threw it one time, and it wasn't measured, so I didn't know for sure. But I knew in my head like I had thrown 57, um, so unofficially. But it wasn't like a crazy jump from 57 to 59. So in my head, I was like, okay, I know I can throw 2 meters farther than I've thrown before, which is how it's usually gone. And so what I threw before was 57, so I could throw 59. Um, so the main thing that I think I took away from that season was like just believing in myself and like power of like visualization because that was I think that was the first year. Like going into that year, I was telling everybody like I'm gonna win the national championship, and like nobody believed me because like we had my buddy now, but we had a guy come in. He transferred from a school in Arizona, and he was a JUCO guy, and he's from Grenada, and he was throwing 59, 60 like every meet. And so and he had already established himself, and so everybody was like, oh, yeah, he's gonna win. I don't know about you. Your PR is 53. So like, what are you talking about? But yeah, that whole year, like the summer leading up into it, I had like worked on like meditation and visualization and just like instilling a belief in myself that like I can do it, I can make it happen. And like the visualization was like it was crazy because I had like thought about like a lot of different scenarios, but I kind of like got stuck on one scenario that was going to happen, and that was the one scenario that I felt like that one was going to happen. It was the one that was going to play out, and it was almost like exactly how it happened, which was like when it happened, I was like, oh, this is just like what kind of coincidence is this? Like this is insane. How could I have just like predicted like I don't know if I predicted it or if I just made it happen like subconsciously, but like I had in my head I was visualizing that I would be leading, I think going into the finals, and then I would get passed, and then I would have to answer on my last throw, and my last throw would be the winner. And that's all like almost exactly how it happened. So like that kind of just like solidified all of that stuff for me, like all of the meditation and visualization stuff. I also was like I cut out a lot of like the extracurricular activities that we had started to partake in throughout the years, and I kind of just focused a lot more on like staying healthy and like recovering a little bit better, because we would have a really good workout and then just go out and instantly ruin it. Like just ruin all of our gains. And I can't tell you how many times we had a freaking killer workout and I did not recover like I should have been. And so like that year I took that a lot more serious. I took that part of it like way more serious than I ever had. And I just like focused on recovering and just staying healthy. And that was the biggest thing for me. Like staying healthy was very hard for me just because of like all the extracurriculars, and then like I would just go at 100% on everything. So it was kind of like I was setting myself up for failure. Like I wasn't like prepared to go 100% on everything, and I was still like trying to do that, and it would always end badly. I would just break something or tear something. And so throughout my whole career, I was just plagued with injuries. So I think the biggest like thing that helped me to win that national championship was like, yeah, the mental preparation, but also like keeping my body ready, like
Yeah,
not
the
getting
fit
hurt.
preparations and
Yeah.
rehab, recovery. And so, how did you bounce back from having injuries and going back to competing and just never giving up?
Uh, I think like towards the end, I had done it so many times that I was just like, yeah, I came back from worse than this. So this is nothing at this point. Like unless it was like something that needed surgery, then nothing was really like serious to me. At the beginning though, it was like I guess like I had just been dealing with it for so long. Like that my freshman year in high school was the first time I got hurt and had to sit out and then come back from that. So like I feel like I just have a long track record of just bouncing back from an injury. I think that first one was probably the hardest. Like when I was just a freshman little baby in high school, and I thought that was the end of the world. I thought I broke my hip, and but it was my hamstring. But I was like, my hip is broken. Like guys, you guys got to fix this right now. But yeah, I thought that was the end of the world. And when I found out like I'm gonna be fine in like a couple weeks, like that was like, oh, I'm
Yeah,
just
like, oh,
being,
sick. We're good.
yeah,
We're good.
like I'm just being dramatic. Like we'll be all right. And I think like once I got through that one, it was like all the rest of them became like way easier. Like just it's okay. I'll be all right. No matter how long it takes, like I know I'll be all right at some point.
So, just taking a quick step back, talking about a lot of your visualization strategies, where did that begin? Is that something you've always been doing? I feel like that's something that a lot of people could benefit from. I did a lot of visualization in my last couple of years in college, but I feel like that's a tool that a lot of kids should honestly start using sooner than
Yeah.
later.
Yeah. Um, I think that started my third year in college, maybe, or maybe my no. I think it started like my yeah, no, my third year. So my sophomore year was the year I won one of my conference titles. So I won indoor shot put, which like that never should have happened, but it happened. Uh, and then like, but after that, so I came off of winning indoor in conference in shot put, and then outdoor I got like fifth place. I didn't even make the podium, and I didn't throw anywhere near what I was supposed to throw. And then I didn't even get any points in discus or hammer, and so or javelin, but I don't think I even threw javelin. And so like, and then I think we lost. conference as a team. And so I took that like really hard. I took it personal, and I was like, I failed the team. This is my fault. I didn't score like I should have won discus, and then I should have won shot put, and I should have at least scored a couple points in hammer. And I dropped the ball. Like I didn't score. I think I missed out on like freaking at least 15 points or 20 points, which probably could have helped us win. And so after that, I had like a really deep like dive into what I'm doing, and I was like what am I doing, and why am I doing this, and what is the purpose of me even being here if I'm just gonna choke at the most important times. And then we had I think it was like our I don't even know what her job title was, but we have a lady who like helps us with everything. Her name is Judy, and I don't know what her job title was, but she was like our mom basically. She made sure we were always like on top of our academics and stuff, and all that stuff. I think she was like deputy academic advisor or something like that. Um, but she suggested like me and my best friend that we read this book. It was called The Mind Gym, and so like we both got it we got it on Audible so we didn't have to actually read it. And we listened to it. So that was like the beginning of the whole thing. I listened to that book, and I was like, oh, this kind of interesting. It talked about like building like a gym in your mind, and like training your mind, and like watching yourself throw and or watching yourself perform, and all the scenarios and that stuff. So I think that started it all my third like going into my third year. And then I listened to a bunch of other books, The Art of Mental Training. That one, I think that one's the one that kind of like I like that one the most because it was kind of like an instruction manual. And I think I lost you.
Hold on here.
There you go.
Yeah, oh, sorry, little hiccup there.
It's okay. Yeah, that one was like an instruction manual, so like it was perfect. And so like that third year, I started doing a lot more like practicing of the meditation and the visualization, and like trying to learn a lot about that stuff. And then that year I made it to the national championship outdoor, and and then I kind of like I saw the people who were competing there, and that was like these are just regular guys. And so then I was like, even more so, I was like, let me lean into this like meditation and visualization stuff, and let me take this serious. Yeah. Then I think that summer was when I was on it like every day. Before then, it was like here and there, and I would do it like before competitions and like leading up. But going into that like that summer of my fourth year, and then that whole year, and then the summer of my after my fourth year, so my last year, I did it like every single day, and I was consistent with it and just took it very serious.
At what point did you start using the visualization technique to prepare for the Olympic trials this past year?
I think like I don't think I really started doing that until I got to Oregon, which was like a few days before the competition. Because I wasn't really like it didn't really hit me. Oh no, I was super nervous for a while. I think I got really nervous, and then I started visualization, like trying to do the visualization more to like calm myself down and just prepare. But I was taking practice competitions like super serious up until the trials, and so I would kind of like do it in between throws during the practice competitions, and like try and put myself in the situation. And so I was kind of using that as like more of my calming tool. But yeah, once I got to Eugene, that was when I was like, okay, I need to figure something else out because this is not working. Like
Yeah.
I'm freaking out.
No, the I think the simulating what you're going to do at the competition and practice has always been something I've really enjoyed and a great tool. I felt that even giving yourself at the end of practice, like, okay, I need to throw whatever distance to make finals or whatever that mark you're looking for to obtain in terms of bare minimum, and just sort of trying to give yourself that, okay, I got to do it. And we usually had like a punishment if you didn't get it, like you had to go do like 50 push-ups or something around those lines. But I think that's a great thing to implement. And with dealing with all the nerves of the Olympic trials, did you have to do any type of like more of your visualization, or what strategies did you use for that?
Yeah, so once I got to Eugene and it was just getting like out of control. Um, then I started doing like I looked up like Andrew Huberman's like non-sleep deep rest thing to follow along on YouTube, and I would follow along with that for a while. I actually did that like right before the competition. There was like in the rec center they have like some massage chairs, and so I went into the massage chair and just sat there and got a couple massages and did the non-sleep deep rest whole routine. But yeah, so getting closer to the competition, it was more so just like calming meditation type sessions. If I like whenever I started thinking like visual doing the visualization, it's like it spiked my nerves like way more intensely. So I had to stop doing that.
Yeah, so that was one of the situations where putting yourself there was the big trigger. And so you had to switch gears to the imagine yourself somewhere else, like outside of competition. I think that's something that I try to implement, whether that was like I always enjoyed throwing at my high school once I was out of it. Like I would go there like a middle school, like one of those no one's around, and just like a nice calm, like peaceful area. So
Yeah.
whenever I would get stressed out, I always had to take myself out of where I was and put myself somewhere else. And then did you have any idea that you would end up medaling at the trials and making it to the Olympics?
Yeah, I mean I think that's why I was so nervous was because like I was going in ranked number 3, and so I was like, oh, like I know I can make the team, and there's no reason in my head that I shouldn't make the team. And so that was like a lot of pressure that I was putting on myself, which just kept like compounding the nerves. It was in my head like if I didn't make the team, there was something wrong, and like I should probably just quit. And that was kind of the deal I made. I told one of my friends like if I don't make the team, I'm quitting because that just like tells me like I'm just not cut out for it. The big moments are just too big for me. But also like going backwards, like the first trials that I ever went to in 21, like I got dead last, but it only took like 62 or 63 or something to make the team. And that to me was like, that's doable. Like I was throwing that a couple weeks prior to the trials in practice. So I was like, oh, like I could have made this team. And then so fast forward, like every year after that was just like every distance wasn't like crazy and like out of my reach. And I always felt like, oh, yeah, I could have made that team. I could have made that team. I was throwing those distances already like a week prior to every competition when it happened. And so this time when it came up, I was like I know like every prior competition, I could have made that team. This competition, like there's no reason I shouldn't make the team. If it's going to be like similar to any of the prior competitions, like there's no reason I shouldn't make the team. And I had come off of like a great year, a great season. I won the Tucson Elite or Throws Festival, and I won Ironwood, and then I broke the Olympic standard, all like like back to back to back. And so I was coming off of these like super highs in my whole career, and I was just like, yeah, if I don't make the team, I'm definitely gonna be done because they're like coming off of all of that. I should be like just riding the momentum and do well, perform well. And if I don't do that, then we should be done because it's not meant for me at that point. And so I think that was a lot more pressure and made the nerves way worse.
I can only imagine. And then, how many years post collegiate were you? I guess this last year.
So this was 5 now, but one of those years was the lockdown, so I didn't have a season.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah,
then,
I
out
guess
of
really
college, did you know you wanted to train to be a professional thrower, or was that just like a something for fun to do?
um I knew I was close, and I so I won the national championships with 59, like a mid 59, and so I was like, okay, that's not a definite yes. Like oh, you need to go throw professionally, you can go make some teams, but it was like, you, I mean, you got some potential, and then and like Josh Sarachin, like he was doing it, and I was like, well, he threw pretty similar in college. And like I had known him coming up, and so I was like, well, if he's doing it, there's no reason I shouldn't be doing it too. Like he's one of the guys I look up to the most because like we came from similar uh backgrounds in college, and so I was like, well, yeah, he's doing it, so I think I got a chance, and maybe we'll both be on the team one day. But yeah, that like right after NCAA's D2 championship, I think my coach was like, "Yeah, let's try and get you into the USA championships." And I was like, "What is?" I don't even know what that is. I don't know what you're talking about. And so we tried to get into that, and I didn't make it into that one. I was like, I was on the bubble, and I was like the first one that got cut off, which was the story for almost every year in nationals with me for every other event. So I was used to that. And then yeah, so I think I had already agreed. Like I talked to the head coach about getting a GA position with the track team at that point, and so I was coming back for sure to to coach, but I didn't know if I would like continue to train. But I was coming back to coach so I could finish, so I could do a finance master's, and that was pretty much the only reason.
So then, how many degrees did you end up having?
3. So I got a undergrad in general business, and then an MBA, and then a master's in finance.
Awesome. Oh, it's really awesome to see someone who used track and field as a tool to get cheaper education, and then come ahead so far ahead at the end of that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I didn't even know at that point. Like, I guess I was like, well, I'm gonna be here anyways, and I'll be like helping out the team. But like also my coach retired, so like when I made the decision, he was still gonna be the coach, and he was still gonna like help me out. And then he retired, so then I was like, okay, maybe not. Maybe I'm not gonna keep doing this. And then I was like, I'll just play it out and see how it goes. And then I just kept training, and I was like, well, I'll try for this trials because that was what was going to come up in 2020. And I was like, we'll just see where it goes from there. And then COVID happened, and trials got postponed, and then I was like, well, so I didn't train at all during COVID, during the lockdown, and so that was like a whole 6 months of just detraining, and then after that, it was like I was like 205 pounds probably, and I was like back to my freshman college weight, weight numbers. And I was like, oh, this is gonna be rough climbing back from this. Yeah, I guess at that point I was just like, I'm already in too deep. I might as well just keep going. But still, at that point, I probably wasn't like wasn't fully committed. I think after the 21 trials when I got last place, I had like a heart to heart moment with myself and then like with my wife, and we sat down and decided like if we're gonna do this, then we're gonna go all in on it and like full commitment and not halfway do it. And I think at that point was when it was just like, okay, we're doing this now. Like we're gonna try as hard as we can, and we're gonna put all our eggs in this basket and make a freaking team at the end of it.
Yeah. So at that point, were you able to go fully professional in the discus, or did you also have a job in addition to that?
So after the lockdown, so I was a GA for a while,
Yeah.
and then the lockdown happened, and then that kind of just got ended, and like I didn't know where I would be living, if I would just move back home or stay here. And so the coach got like the administration and the head coach, like they did some stuff and like traded positions with other people, and so they got rid of my GA position. So I didn't even have the option to do that anymore. So I lost that job, and then after that was like that was when I had that 1 year where I was like kind of just, oh no, I worked with my dad for the whole lockdown. So like we were working, I saved up some money, and then after that, like we were kind of like coasting on that money. Plus, like my wife was starting to make some more money on like social media and stuff. And then after the trials, that was when like she was like, okay, like if you're gonna do it, then do it, and I'll take care of everything. And so she let me just not get a job, and she took care of all the bills. And so I guess I did go like full. I wouldn't consider myself professional because I don't get paid. I think I'm still in the post collegiate zone where like I don't have a contract and I'm just basically doing a hobby at this point. But yeah, I was doing it full time ever since 21.
So then, do you have any advice for any collegiate athletes out there that are looking to start their post collegiate career? Post collegiate career at the end of this year.
I'd say like learn as much as you can about like the USATF system and all that, like everything you can get from them. Like because if you're good coming out of like D1, you can get put in like the TPP, the talent protection program, which is like that they take care of you for that first year for sure, and then possibly the second year. But then also just like try and grow your social media because you can get a lot more accomplished if you have like a big community, and at that point like you won't need to rely on like USATF or other organizations to like try and help you, and then you can survive on your own without having a job. But yeah,
No, I
that's
think that's
just
a
yeah.
good idea, especially growing your social media. Social media is more important than ever in terms of recognition and all your different deals and promotions these days. But going into your professional career, what would you say was the biggest, I guess, step forward you took in terms of gaining knowledge from a certain area of recovery or training?
Well, I think like once COVID happened, the lockdown happened, and I lost my resource of the strength coach here, the strength and conditioning coach who was writing my weight room programs. Once I lost that, it kind of like forced me to like learn about programming in the weight room by myself. And so I think like at that point was like, oh, now I can just like experiment with whatever I want. And so I think like experimenting for 3 years was pretty fun to me. Like I get to do like whatever exercises I wanted, and then the one of the other strength coaches was like he was still there, and like he was pretty like invested in me as a person. And so we would always just chat it up in the weight room, and he would like teach me little things that he knew, and he was a strong man too. Like he competed as a strong man, so like his version of things was it was so different and unique. Like it was so cool for me to see that kind of training because it was it was closer to like what I came up doing, like with the tire flips and all that stuff in the dungeon. And so I like all the stuff that he had like that he would do.
Yeah, that's actually really funny that you bring that up. So when COVID happened, that was my freshman year of college, and the gym that I started training at, I moved back to Omaha Barbell. If anyone's in Omaha, go check it out. They had a professional World's Strongest Man that trained there, and I believe he made the finals in 2017, and they had all the equipment there, and I thought it'd be so cool to try some of that stuff. And so my strength coach at Lincoln kind of made a little alternate to our, like, the bench, squat, clean type programming that a lot of throwers have. And
Mm-hmm.
instead, I was doing like it would be axle bar, clean and press, or log press. And
Yeah,
then instead of squats, it might be some kind of like yoke or stones, and then different squat variants. And I thought it was really fun to just, you're still getting like those movements, but it's
yeah,
just like you're applying it way differently.
yeah, yeah. That was a really fun part about it because he was like, and so he would do like strongman stuff, but like with regular weight room equipment, which was like I thought that was super cool. Like he would just walk around with like a safety squat bar with 365 pounds on it and just kind of do like a pseudo yoke walk. And he would just do laps with that. And I was like, oh, that's fun. And he would just do all sorts of stuff like that. And then he had like all sorts of different equipment too, like the fat barbells, and then like the axle bars. He had a stone there, which like we got to play with it sometimes. So yeah, I loved all that stuff. I loved like experimenting with all the different kinds of like movements and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the most fun things about being a part of a strength sport is when you're in those periods of not quite periodization, but you can kind of just use the weight room as a creative sandbox and just kind of explore different movements or compounds
Yeah.
and stuff like that. That's one of the best things in the sport, in my opinion.
Yeah. 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 So I don't think I answered the question. I don't even know like what my greatest like leap forward would have been. Like it would have had to been like during experimenting with all that stuff, like getting stronger in like unconventional lifts, like a split squat or like I got really strong in split squats for a while. And then like I was trying to build like my incline with with a duffalo bar, just like weird little random things that like I figured out my weaknesses, like where I was like really weak, and then I just kind of like attacked all of those. And so I think that helped a lot with everything, like just getting me more robust as a whole. And then like that gave me the ability to like now I can go back to normal stuff. Like now I'm doing like more normal stuff with Ashley, with like doing back squat again and just regular bench press, which like I took all that stuff out for a while, a long time. But it's cool now. I can come back to it and still be pretty much like where I was at. Actually, like now I'm stronger than where I was at. So that's cool.
Yeah, so now you're training with Ashley. Do you have 700 pounds on back squat for tens in your future?
I think so. Yeah, I could definitely see that coming
No,
at
that's
some point.
awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing all the progress updates and all the new videos coming out for you.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely like it's hard, but it's fun. It's definitely like it brings me back to the dungeon days because it's like I'm just dying and I'm pushing myself to the max all the time.
That's one of those when you're in that situation, it's honestly terrible. Like, just like knowing you have more to do. But I feel like that feeling when you get done is so nice, where you're done, you feel like accomplished what you did, and now you can go eat a big meal and relax.
Yeah, exactly. That's it's like when I'm in it, it's just like, oh my God. Like I'm always just like, does anyone else just feel like this? Like I always wonder, like, am I the only one that's ever just freaking dead on the floor in the middle of my workout? Because like when I work out with other people, they're just like, I need just like breezing through it. And I was just like, what? How are you not dead right
Yeah, I'm
now?
I'm not that way. I always looking ahead, especially on those days where you have like 8 sets of squats or some like you have a lot going on. I always had to kind of cover up my sheet because if I saw, oh, I have 8 sets of squats, I have 6 sets of cleans, and then I'm gonna throw in some bench press and then maybe some dumbbells and two different accessory lifts. Like just looking at that, like that's kind of overwhelming.
Yeah. It's crazy. I'm always like questioning, like, am I doing something wrong? Like, why am I so far? Like, why am I so much more exhausted than anyone else ever seems like they are? Or am I just a big baby? I'm just being dramatic like usual.
Yeah, exactly. That's I always felt that way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fun. Good stuff.
Yeah, but I guess to start wrapping things up, do you have any last pieces of advice you'd like to share to everyone?
I think like the biggest thing just keep like always just keep believing in yourself. I just saw a post on TikTok. A girl was like that feeling when you know like you love a sport, but you know you never go to college for it because you don't throw far enough or something like that. And I was like, come on, like you can't give up on yourself already. Like keep on trying at least. And if you get told no 1,000 times and you don't make it by the end of it, like if you really love it, like you can keep going as you can keep going somehow. Like keep
Yeah,
going on
like
your own
there's
and walk
always going to
on.
be a way to continue
Yeah.
on, whether that be there's all the different levels between junior college, NAIA, any of the different divisions of NCAA. You know, there's always a way there. And plus, there's all these open meets if you just want to train at the YMCA and then
Yeah,
throw on your own.
exactly. Like there's a way. You just got to make it happen. And she was talking about how like she's a short thrower, so she doesn't think she'll ever throw far. And so I was just, like in my head, I'm like, I feel like there are at least a few people who are pretty short and who have thrown pretty far. Like I don't, maybe you won't be a freaking gold medalist, but like you might still be able to make a team.
Yeah, exactly. It always frustrates me to see the people that discount themselves on I'm not big enough or I'm not tall enough. Like everyone finds a way. Everyone's different, and that's what's kind of nice about throwing is you'll have
Yeah.
people like even for comparison, my teammates a couple of years ago, we
Yeah.
had Max Otterdahl, who's 6'8", 6'9".
Yeah.
I'm 6'5", and so I was kind of the median height. And then we would have Alex Talley, who is a smidge under 6 foot, but we all did the same sports. We did the same lifts. It's just like no matter what your shape and size is, throwing's always like you can still throw.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like I'm a good example of that. Like I'm a little tiny guy compared to everybody else in discus. Yeah, I've gotten questioned every time I talk, not every time, but a lot of times when I tell people I'm a thrower, or at least back in the day, like they would be like, "You're a thrower? Aren't throwers supposed to be like big, strong guys?" And I would just like be so like, "That's so rude. How could you say that to me?"
Yeah, like no, I'm big. Pull out a bicep flex. No, that's also like look at it. Like you see some guys that are smaller, and then you have some people that are heavier. Like for myself, like I was competing this last year at 365 pounds when I was at like throwing my farthest. Like I know that's probably significantly heavier than what people expect someone to be at for throwing. So that's just the cool thing about that.
Yeah, it's a great sport. Yeah,
Exactly.
that's all I got
Yeah.
for
Well,
advice.
yeah. In that case, Joe, I really appreciate you coming on the podcast. Sorry we had a little flicker and cameras and all that fun stuff. Technology, am I right? But I
Yeah,
really appreciate you coming on the podcast, and we're very lucky to have you. And everyone, go give Joe a follow and follow along as he continues on in his discus career.
yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on here. It was super fun. I enjoyed it.
Awesome. Well, we'll have you on again sometime.
Yeah, definitely.